Welcome to this tutorial. I recently did this drawing and someone on Instagram said that I should do a tutorial. They asked for it very nicely, so here we are. I'm going to do a quick drawing of this. In order to learn this stuff, I think we need to go over maybe um, the slightly finer details of drawing eyes first. Eyes are a little bit more interesting to get the kind of feel that you want to go for. This one I added a little box to try to get some glare off the eye, but it didn't really work, so I didn't add it to the rest of them. But in order to do this, we're going to start with eyes. So there's this. I started a big one. We're going to put those off to the side, and we're going to start on this little one. So I'm just going to start with this guy, which is 0.2 millimeter of 0.2 millimeter tip, and I'm just going to show quickly how eyes are kind of drawn through my abstract vision, kind of. We'll see how this goes. As far as eyes go, most of the time, let's start right here. So I always kind of make the traditional Egyptian looking eye. You got one on top, one on bottom. Add this little guy, and I learned that a long time ago that an eye always kind of has like this one extra spot where the pupil is, because it sits a little bit higher. So if you're looking up, like if you physically are looking up, there's a little extra lump in where you are drawing. That's a terrible example, but where you will be drawing the actual pupil. So now we have this and this. I do it here too, just to satisfy. And that kind of gives your orb look. With this piece, I more or less just filled in this portion of all of these guys right here. I just filled that in with black. And the actual human eye, there you got junk in there. So junk. You have like you got your tear duct and muscle and stuff surrounding it, ocular fluid. But we're not gonna look at all that. We're just gonna go straight for what I have done in this one. So from here, I simply just added where the iris would be, and sometimes you can make the iris big and have it connect all the way to the top, and you'll have that little extra lump that I was talking about earlier. And then you can make your pupil. More or less kind of like that. And depending on where your eye is it will give different emotions. So sassy eyes and sleepy eyes and that sort of thing. So let's do this one too. Let's make a slightly smaller iris. I'm just going to kind of do the same thing that I did up top. You just put it to the actual portion. And let's have this one kind of up over here. So it looks like the eye is more looking up. And for the piece that I did, I just kind of did whichever direction, however I felt like it. That's more or less how I did it. So going from there, I'm going to turn this sideways to give myself a little bit more space. We're going to keep those guys visible. So to do the line work, to make it look, I don't know how to describe it, kind of cobwebby and maybe connect it a little bit. So I normally just start with a line and I fill it in. Recently I've been focusing on keeping the pattern tight. So having one point that I start at and building off of there, as well as a connecting point, as I call it. I don't know how else to describe it, but you bring all of the lines to that one point. And after, kind of builds on itself, and you can see how I'm modifying it as I'm going along, and it's kind of taking on its own shape. Sometimes I like to fill in the other side so it doesn't just look so, it feels lopsided and incorrect. So I'm going to bring that one in just a little bit like that. Okay, so I already see two spots that I can potentially put some eyes in here. So right here, this shape matches our eye shape really nicely. So you can just pop a line right there. And here is the basic eye shape. And now this one's a little squished. So let's have it go kind of like this. And I'm going to fill this in just to give a little bit more positive space. And I like that because this is real heavy down here with how much dark I've put on the paper. And then let's just add in straight out, just like that. So in that one nook, you can see that I've been able to add one eye. So I already see another spot. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one over here. So I'm just going to continue that thought. We're just going to take this a little bit further. Of course, there's a low-flying plane that just wanted to fly right over my neighborhood right now. I'm sure my microphone can pick that up. Oh yeah. So, looking here, I've created two more spots that I can add more eyes to. So I'm just going to take this and add one there. And you see I've added that lump. Now that is the lump that I'm talking about for the iris and pupil. There. And let's make this one looking up just a little bit like that. There. Kind of out to a direction. And the same thing here. I want to add one right here. So I'm going to bring this kind of like that. This one's going to be a little bit of an awkward shape, but that is totally fine. Because in the end, no one's really looking at one individual eye, and they're looking at the thing as they see it, which would be the whole picture, the whole mess. I also don't like to do this too often, where it's one eye directly connected to another. But this one seemed okay to me. It just doesn't feel right when you have them connected. It's just too much conglomerate altogether. It's nice to have that separation between them. So I'm going to do a couple more. We'll try to connect things as best I can. So there's that separation that I just added. So now I see a spot right here that I'd like to put an eye, so I'm going to try to modify this to make it look just a little bit better. So I can put one in this spot without it being so connected. Just like that. I think I'll point this one off to one direction. So let's do this, like this, and over there. Obviously, I'm missing something on this side, so I'm just going to satisfy my OCD. There. So now I've got a little bit of counterbalancing here with this. So, 3 over here, 1 up here, but nothing over here. So now I'm going to add one on this side, and it's going to balance things out quite a bit. And this is just kind of the junk that I think about as I'm doing this most of the time. Yeah, so that's more or less how I made this drawing and how I'm going to make the big one, which I don't think, if I put this on there, it's not going to look very good, so I'm just going to put that there. This was my test drawing, this one, just to see what the pattern would look like, how it would feel, that sort of stuff, just to do something a little bit new. I've been listening to a lot of like SCP containment and stuff like that, and it's kind of giving me this a little bit of a horror genre going through my head. So this cobwebby stuff, which I guess I could go over how to do as well. That'd be a nice thing to learn how to do. So let's add that to this whole thing. But I've been listening to more horror stories and like Bram Stoker's Dracula. I listened to that recently. I went back and I decided to watch a movie that I like oh so much, and that's The Thing, and that's the 1980s The Thing. Is it The Thing? Yeah, it is. Which has a lot of body horror and stuff in it, which I like. I like that because it's so gross. Yeah, I didn't used to like it, but I like it, so that's kind of where this is coming from. But that aside, so right here I've added 2 lines. What we're trying to do is get that like mucusy or cobweb feel to it, so you have to have a good connection spot to your eyeball sac. And then from there you want to add some negative spaces. So like what you see over here in this portion, there's these holes that gives it this negative space that's a little bit more webby feeling. So that's what I'm going to do here. Instead of filling this all in with black, I'm going to add several ovals and round shapes to it to fill it, not fill it in, to give it that negative space and give it that web feel to it. So I'm going to add one here, I'm going to add one there. And I don't want to go so far into it because I do like having a bit of filled in shape to continue that feel. Put a little one there, a little one right there, bigger one right here, and then just fill it in. There. So that kind of gives that, like, it's being held and it feels like it's being pulled tight. And that's because you have a connection point here, and then imagine off over here somewhere there's another connection point. So, you know, let's add a shape. We're going to add this. So it's anchored to this, and it's also anchored to that. So we would need to add this and that way it feels like it is being held at both spots, both anchor positions. I've left a nice spot right here to do another one, so let's just add another something or other to anchor it to. There. So then bring it down, and I missed by just a little bit, but that's okay. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and now I've limited myself quite a bit, but I can still add those shapes to still give it that overall feel, that anchored to or pulled tight. There. So now you can see how it feels like this is anchored to it. To me it feels like it's wobbly, like this is a thread, and you know how if you pull a thread real tight, it'll be straight, but if you let slack happen, it'll dip. So that's kind of the thought process here. This is that string that's pulled tight. If I was going to continue this, I would bring another one and maybe one off of here, and I wouldn't really have these shapes, but that's just for a visual aid to give you that kind of that feeling of tight, of taut. Yeah. So that is the overall basic idea of how to do this. Honestly, it's just personal interpretation as well. So the lines themselves, It's more or less however floats my boat at the time when I'm doing this. So anybody that would be doing this as well, it's however you feel like doing it. Um, there's no there's no really good way to describe it. No really good way to describe the lines. They are what they are, and that's how they are. Um, to go a little bit more in depth, these little drippy guys down here at the bottom, which are also kind of fun. I guess I can bring this down. And so now I've got that shape, the shape that I have on these. And so what I want to do is I want to bring that and I want to widen it towards the bottom, like a droplet of water. It will have that classic drop shape to it, that pear shape to it. So if we bring this down and start widening out the base, it'll feel like it's being pulled in that direction. So you get that movement. So all of it's abstract. It's all up to interpretation, but those are the basic ideas, the basic thoughts that go through my head as I'm doing this. Let me know what you think below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm on all sorts of social medias, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. However you want to find me, do it. Thanks, guys.